Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Brother Rich. I'm back with the blue pill. Brother been out of town for a little bit. Good to have you back here, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, listen, man. We got a lot of things going on in the news, brother. I want to just address with you. I want to start out with, man. I think it was sometime last week. Dame Dash visited 105.1 Power One Breakfast Club.
Right.
Charlemagne, DJ Envy, Miss Info. Is that not Miss Info? I'm bugging out. Angela Yee. Damn, I'm all off today. Oh man. So yeah, man. He was on everybody's Facebook timeline after that.
Yeah.
People were doing memes of him on Instagram. Yeah. He was talked about all on television, everywhere, man. The way he was talking about business and just having pride in yourself and working for yourself and hustling for your last name instead of your first name, making moves and thinking about your children in mind. It was a great interview. Yeah. A lot of people had a lot of positive, a lot of negative. I want to start out with the one thing I was thinking about, because at that same time, the brother Polite did a video, or he put up a picture with a lot of money in his hand, right? So the question I have is, brother, is for some reason there's this I want to ask you, there's this concept that if you are pro-black, if you have a lot of money, if you talk anything against white supremacy, people deem it hypocritical when they see you with material possessions, be it $100,000 car, $5,000 gold chain, some expensive shoes, some fur coats or whatever. Is it? Can I talk? Can I say I'm against white supremacy, but at the same time I could enjoy wealth and do what I want to do with my money because I worked for it. Do what makes me happy. Is that hypocritical, or is it a certain way you should live your life if you talk against the system of white supremacy?
That is a very interesting question, simply because it conjoins a lot of conversations into one. So we're gonna have to uncoil some of those conversations and separate them and put them on, multiple lanes. All right. So take somebody like Dame Dash, he's coming out of a different lane, a different vein in terms of him having a conversation that mostly deals with the perspective of a quote unquote Harlem hustler who interfaced and interacted with the corporate business world, had his triumphs and also had his downfalls. You know what I'm saying? So we have to know and understand that we're listening to the perspective of somebody who's speaking as a Harlem hustler. You know what I'm saying? Who is interjecting certain street principles into a new corporate mindset, you know what I'm saying, which is not going to necessarily work for everybody. Now, when you're talking about other individuals such as Brother Polite and individuals such as him, like take Dr. Umar, for instance, just because the brother is asking for a sum of money, okay, he is subject to a level of scrutiny that I've never seen before in the community, quote unquote. I think that when we're talking about people that are perceived to be in positions of leadership, quote unquote, how they spend their money and what they spend their money on, falls under a different set of eyes, a different glare, whether that's quote unquote fair or not. I can't necessarily say, because there's this preconceived notion about what goes along with leadership and where a leader is supposed to take their quote unquote people. You know what I'm saying? So we know that brother has a platform that's based on an economic approach, an economic perspective. And he's never made it a secret that, economics is pretty much at the forefront of what he hopes to achieve out here with his quote unquote agenda. So for people to have an adverse reaction to him showing money or him being in a Bentley or him shopping at Whole Foods, I came across some videos online, and I came across some things on my timeline, and I really tried to stay out of the fray of this conversation. It borderlines into what Dame Dash was talking about, being quote unquote chatty patty, but I'm not gonna at the same time sit here and say that I didn't read some comments. I'm not gonna say that I didn't watch one or two videos, you know what I'm saying, when they popped up or when they would quote unquote email to me. And I understand the perspective of both parties, because he did a video on Sarnetta channel speaking about the reaction, you know what I'm saying, to the picture or what have you. So let me get to more so the direct aspect of this question. And you're saying, should we be allowed as people that are quote unquote pro-black, which means that we want something different for our people, you know what I'm saying? We want something for our people that's outside of the grip and, the quote unquote control of white supremacy. Can we do that by acquiring things that are material and, in so many words, supporting white supremacy? You know what I'm saying? Because the majority of the things that one can acquire or the institution that one support in one way or another are intertangled with some form of structural white supremacy. It's a catch-22. You know what I'm saying? It's a catch-22 because Brother Polite is speaking to a different demographic than, let's say, my elders were speaking to. You know what I'm saying? Brother Polite's version of quote unquote, financial freedom or breaking free of the bonds of institutional, structural white supremacy / racism might be different than, let's say, somebody that's 60 or 70, you know what I'm saying, or 80-year-old. The people that he's speaking to feel that financial freedom will definitely separate them from that particular grip. You know what I'm saying? As long as they're able to acquire what they want, spend freely or what have you, they feel that that's a form of freedom that they're looking for. I think that in so many words, that's probably what our parents thought as well, at the dawning of integration and civil rights. They wanted to spend freely. They wanted, to be able to acquire things with the notion that they had a level of discipline that they were going to be able to buy this and buy that and buy this and buy that and still not get pulled into the whole emotion and the law of those products, because those products also have feelings that you know what I'm saying, like they have a whole atmosphere that comes along with them. You know what I'm saying? So are you able to acquire these things and not become of those things? You know what I'm saying? Or do you start becoming those things and thinking because you have those things, you're better than somebody that doesn't, or that's what separates you from somebody else? You know what I'm saying? But I know from speaking to a lot of the youth on my travels, they want to have the right to have nice things, because a lot of them come from places where they didn't necessarily have nice things. And for them, there's no compromise. You know what I'm saying? They don't want freedom without nice things. They can't make the equation. They don't want to start over. That makes no sense to them. You know what I'm saying? That level of sacrifice is not something that I'm finding in my people. You know what I mean? They're not willing to go to eating oats and shit like that because that's where they came from. So they're trying to get as far away from that, the scourge of quote unquote poverty. And what they see poverty is, not having the right to acquire what it is that they want to make them feel a certain way. We spoke about this a long time ago when we were talking about desires, and how desires pretty much is everything that's fueling what people do, why they do it, and how they go about doing it. So that's all we're talking about at the end of the day.
One thing that just getting a little bit back to Dame Dash, that people always, as far as name calling, people always call them arrogant. It seems as though when a brother speaks a certain way, he's automatically deemed arrogant. When you come with, it's like people, this idea of confidence, or this supreme confidence or believing you God or thinking highly of yourself is good in theory. In our minds, it's good in theory. We could imagine it and it's a good idea. But to see somebody manifest that idea and express it in the physical form, it's a little bit intimidating to people. So in theory, everybody wants to be Christ-like. But could you imagine the level of confidence Christ comes with? So my question is, some people would say, no, Christ came with humility. My question to you, brother Blue Pill, does humanity have at this point, because we're in this age of awakening, where we're changing, our thoughts are changing, our collective way of thinking is changing. So with all that being said, do you think humanity has a false sense of humility when they should be leaning more? Because it appears all these brothers that have the biggest impact are real confident, real confident, real boastful. Some of them boastful, like Mayweather. Whatever you do in your craft, that person is extremely confident. Muhammad Ali, I'm the best in the world. They always tell you to say you're the best, but when a person actually says it out loud, it's like, oh, you're supposed to say that in your head, not out loud. So are we suffering from a false lack of humility, and that's what's kind of holding us back from fulfilling our potential?
Again, I think this also goes back to the double standards of what's projected to us via society. Society tells you have confidence. Society tells you poke your chest out. Society tells you keep your chin up. You know what I'm saying? Society tells you walk soft but carry a big stick. All of those things are pretty much white folk telling their children that. You know what I'm saying? But when a brother does that, it's threatening. Okay? When a brother does that, it's intimidation. When a brother does that, it's like, okay, now how could we turn that off? You know what I'm saying? Is there an off button that comes along with that? And we have a lot of cultural icons to, you know what I'm saying, look at and get a perspective of what you're saying. And you mentioned a few, Muhammad Ali. Okay? The brother was saying he was a champion before he was a champion. He had to convince himself that. Now, these are techniques that are being taught, to Europeans, and they're calling it New Age. You feel me? But we have living examples of it. James Brown. You know what I mean? Multiple musicians. We don't understand the level of backlash. We don't understand the barriers that these people had to go through to become great in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and the 60s. You feel me? Like performing in speakeasies and clubs and what have you, where you couldn't congregate with the same people that you entertain in. You had to be in the back. You couldn't even sleep in the hotel, the main hotel in some of these towns. You had to drive through towns where they was lynching people to perform for people that that don't like you, just to be heard. You can't put your face on albums. You know what I'm saying? Like they was going up against mafia control music labels. You know what I'm saying? And those mafia control music labels, the mafia was also in bed with the government. Like they didn't even know the level of information that we have access to now. They just felt the brunt force of it. And they were strong enough to push through that with confidence. You know what I'm saying? With a level of faith by quote unquote believing in themselves. Brings us back to belief. And the fact that this community is always shitting on belief. Without belief, we wouldn't even be sitting here talking about these people. Those people had to believe in themselves for us to know that they was as good as they was talking about. You know what I'm saying? So you can't take that element out of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't dismiss belief as a primal factor in a lot of these success stories. So yes, I think that confidence is a major component of quote unquote success. I think that with borderlines arrogance, I think that works for some people based on the position they're in and based on the approaches that they take. When I was doing my newspaper in the early 2000s, I used to be up at Def Jam a lot, and we used to be in Rockefeller office. You know what I'm saying? So I seen Dame interfacing with a lot of the people in that building. You know what I'm saying? And I seen how a lot of those people were moving on him. I had an opportunity to interview Dame a few times as well when he was at his height of arrogance. You know what I'm saying? He had to, strike that accord and be in that persona to protect himself in a lot of those situations. Those were shark-infested waters. They were trying to take a lot more from him than they were trying to award him or give him. So, like I said, we're talking again about somebody that their approach is from a Harlem hustler mentality. You know what I'm saying? And that's how, you know, they're going to style on you. You feel me? So he just keeping true to who he is. And he never divorced who he was to become somebody that, you know, that he was emulating or looking up to. He didn't look up to none of those squares. You know what I'm saying? He looked up to his OGs. And, you know, his level of quote unquote confidence, it worked for him, you know. And him being able to raise and groom Kanye, you know, that worked for Kanye as well. I interviewed Kanye in 2003 before the jaw accident, before he got his jaw wired. You know what I'm saying? So we talking about two different Kanyes. I sat there with him for 3.5 hours. That brother was very shy, very reserved. He was still looking for his footing in the game. I remember I interviewed him the night that he premiered Through the Wire at 4040. You know what I'm saying? Me, him, and his shorty was the only one walking, you know, after the screening. I walked him back to his whip, you know what I'm saying, to get some interviews with him while we were leaving. Like, I was the only member of the media that did that. You know what I'm saying? I was, and none of the Rock was with him. You know, nobody was with him. His homies wasn't with him. You feel me? So this is somebody who was an underdog for real. Like, understand his underdog status was really an underdog status. Like, the people that he expected to be there for him were not there for him. So he had to fight, you know what I'm saying, to get his way, to get that position, you know. And he put out his material, and the people gravitated to him. The people made him the people's champ. They are the ones that voted him into that position. So he had to, again, have that level of arrogance because of the environment that he was around. There was nobody around that was necessarily trying to give him something. Everybody is necessarily waiting and looking to take something from you. And 9 out of 10 times when you are a melanated man in the industry, they're looking to take your nuts from you. Okay? So yeah, you know, you gotta be in that role sometimes, you know, more times than often.
Excellent answer, brother. You know, you mentioned belief. You said it a couple of times. I need you to give me about 5-10 minutes. I just want to address a few YouTube things. A brother asked a question, and before I get into that, everybody leaving comments in the YouTube section. Some people always say, "Oh, brother Rich, you erasing my comments. You ain't really conscious." Listen, I don't have to agree with you. I don't erase comments. YouTube, if there's a certain way you write, if you write more than 5 lines, or if you capitalize words, or if you're sharing a link, YouTube will automatically put it in this spam column that I have to go through manually and uncheck everybody's comments. So I don't erase them unless you're just extremely disrespectful. If you're extremely disrespectful, then to myself or the guest, then that's one thing. But that rarely happens. It's just people who have totally different viewpoints from myself or from the guests, and that's cool. That's all right. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I want to have. Free media. You know, I don't want my media to be the black version of Bill O'Reilly. You know what I'm saying? You could express yourself. So I'm not erasing comments. It's going into the spam folder. Another thing. There's a brother named Mean Son. Where's it? Because I've been meaning to get to this, but I keep forgetting. Yeah, Mean Son 101, I think that's his name. And I told the brother that I would answer his question personally. I'm gonna start doing segments where I answer more questions. I know I don't get to a lot of y'all, but there's a lot of trolls in the comment section, man. And sometimes it's hard. I be in there on the first or second day I upload a video. After that, it just gets flooded, and it's hard. I have so many videos. It's hard for me to answer all of them, and I'm better at speaking my word instead of writing it. I don't really like to write in paragraphs on computer thing or whatever. So let me get to the brother's question. Now I mean, son, 101. I'm gonna read it the best I can because it's on this small phone. Bro, Rich, I love the work that you do and the interviews that you do, and I stay giving you props, and deservedly so, but I gotta ask you a question, so if you see this, please reply. If you're on your metaphysical thing and you believe that you control everything around you and everything else is an illusion, paraphrasing, then do you not believe that we are living under a system of systematic white inferiority, popularly known as systematic white supremacy? Do you not believe in mass incarceration of black men, people? Do you not believe in the miseducation of our children, people, the homo agenda, the feminization of the black males, etc., etc.? Because if you don't, then why do you do what you do if you don't believe in any of it? Are you not contributing to the same things that you say will hold you back? Are you capitalizing off of us who know there is an agenda to keep us oppressed? Because if you don't believe our reality, how are you any different from the KKK culture vulture if you don't believe there's an agenda to separate the black man, woman, and child, or police brutality? Are you not exploiting, capitalizing off of our reality, which is not yours? I'm confused because I feel the passion in your questioning a lot of times as if it was personal. I'm saying respectfully, peace. I told the brother he always leave high quality comments, whether I agree with him or disagree with him or whatever. To basically sum it up, approaching it from a metaphysical perspective, and just before I say what I say, it gets confusing, and I always say this if I talk to you a red pill, because when you talk esoterics and then you talk exoterics, sometimes it seems like a contradiction, but the world is so multi-level, multi-layer, what's real here may not be real there, and vice versa. So I switch in and out of speaking esoterically and exoterically sometimes, and I know sometimes that can throw people off. In terms of white supremacy, nah, I mean, son, the mass incarceration, the homo agenda, feminization, you know, everything that they're doing, it's not whether I believe in it or not, it's a reality. In the world, and how I study quantum physics, there's infinite realities. So it does exist, and it's a part of our collective culture, so it's strong. It has a strong frequency, resonance, but it's not our truth. That's not my truth. So I could observe that, but I'm not going to give an emotional anger to it anymore, because that feeds it. I can observe it, and I speak about white supremacy now, I mean, son, for us to get inspired, not for us to feel downtrodden. So if you're feeling downtrodden after watching my videos, then maybe I did something wrong with the questioning on the guest. But the whole point of this, because at the end of whatever we talk about, we always bring it back to our divine nature, our divine self, how godly we are. One thing I didn't like, nah, I mean, son, when I was young and I was getting into this metaphysical thing, some people call it New Age. Number one, you have to go to like these white bookstores. This was before the internet, so I didn't have Google at all. I had to go to these white bookstores to get the information, either that or Bobby or Phil. And I was very much interested in manipulating reality and learning how to control reality. But it seems as though when you're part of that group, they want you to like see beyond color, forfeit your race. Don't talk about that. We could talk about everything, but I don't want to hear that black shit. So I always, in my mind, I was like, damn, I hear them saying that it's an illusion, okay, but I mean, I got to get this shit out of me. I got to talk to, it's such a strong part. I was born into this, so I chose it for a particular reason. So I couldn't express myself just reading those books. So what I did was I combined my black studies with my metaphysical studies, and I understood that the universe is a paradox. I understood that exists, but at the same time, that's not me. At the same time, it's not true. At the same time, I could be looking at something and saying it's an illusion. At the same time, it's not real. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, I am that I am, and that's the only thing that exists. I am that I am, and that I am that I am may express itself as in different circumstances in my life, as love, the love I get from my woman, or the love I got as a child from my mother, or you know, some happiness I may get in playing basketball. That happiness, that love that you feel, that's your core resonance. That's who you truly are. It's like our emotions are a GPS system, and when you're feeling bad about something, your emotions is telling you off track. You on the wrong road. So technology is nothing but is mimicking our inner technology. So when my emotions tell me, nah, that don't feel right, I know that shit is an illusion. So when I see white supremacy, I know it's an illusion, but I talk about it because it gives me strength. It knows that after all of that, after being born in this system, I could still overcome it, still have this conversation with Blue Pill, still live good, still experience happiness, be my own boss, buy things that I want, have a woman that I love from the bottom of my heart, have children when I'm ready to have children, not succumb, never work for him. All this thing, I could go through all of that and still be myself, and I'm 33, so I'm growing. But I'm confident in myself, and I believe in myself, and I know after seeing all that and still being into this, still, the Bible says, let a poor man say he is rich. It has a lot of metaphysical meaning behind that. It's not just like literally, you know what I'm saying? It's like you could see one thing and you still reject it, even though your eyes tell you one thing, in the core of your heart you believe or another thing. So when I speak on all of this, I know it's out there. There's infinite possibilities in the realm we live in. Infinite. Right now, a girl is getting raped. At the same time, somebody's getting married. In somebody's reality, all over the world, there's bad things happening right now, and there's great things. I'd rather resonate with my greater truth. I'd rather resonate with what my heart tells me. The frequency, what's more on my home frequency. As far as white supremacy, there's no getting around that in terms of just ignoring it. What I'm doing is I'm getting inspired by it, inspired to be who I really am. It's like when you had a buffet table and you know what you like by seeing things you don't like. So you may try other things, but after you try those things, you be like, your taste palette says, you know what, I don't like that shit, I like this. So this is just this reality is a buffet for me. And I'm picking and deciding what I like or what I resonate with or what my frequency is. And to do that, I had to go through some white authors. I had to go through some black authors. I understand at the end of the day, we're all energy. I'm down with that whole movement. Everything is energy at the end of the day. But I understand this is a movie and I got a role. In my movie down here, I'm playing this black, quote unquote, black dude. And it's cool, you know what I'm saying? I'm a male, I accept, I accept all of that. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. I know that all this is energy at the end of the day. So I hope I got into that, nah, I mean, son. Our linear way of thinking, we're taught that it's yes or no, or this or that. This new way of thinking, I'm trying to express that sometimes it's this and that, or yes and no. So it can, gray areas. Yeah, it's gray areas. So yes, it is real, but do you want to experience that? That's the question. What's your preferred reality? Because there's infinite realities. The questions we need to ask ourselves is, what is our preferred reality? I know my preferred reality. So I may talk about it, but I'm talking about it, but inside of myself, my intention, I'm getting motivated by it. So I hope you're getting motivated by it, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to get motivated. They're not giving you this, okay, get off your ass and get it yourself. You can't eat good, okay, learn how to grow, and so on and so forth. And, we all, there's different generations of this, from young to old, and, we just got to take it a day at a time. But as when you read the book, The Alchemist, it says we each have a personal legend. So I recommend everybody invest in and find their personal legend, which is their personal journey in life. We all got solutions, but the best collective solution is us to find our personal journey and then join together. Because if we don't know who we are, it's kind of hard to be part of a collective if you don't even know who you are, because it's hard to contribute. Now that I know who I am, I could contribute better to the collective. So I know who I am, and I advise everybody else out there to just learn, develop a relationship with your intuition. My intuition got me through everything in life. It's never wrong, ever, never. Even if it seems like it's wrong, it's just never wrong. It goes beyond logic. So I'm deeply into metaphysics because that's all there is. This is the realm of effects. I understand that. But I also understand that white supremacy is a part of collective culture, and part of my purpose is just letting people know that it can be part of the collective culture, but it can be a illusion at the same time. And it's not about whether something is real or not. It's about what do you prefer to do? What's your preferred version of reality? And when you decide what your preferred version of reality is, the other stuff will dissipate. It would just disappear. Reality is not solid. It's fluid. It's like sand. It's very fluid. It's more fluid than what we think it is. But our thoughts are so crystallized from the years of programming that it's a time gap for us to make change. But if we really believed in something, we could change it in an instant. And so I hope that answered your question. I'm gonna get to answer more questions. Blue Pill said he want to be down with that, so I got him a part of that. And you know, we gonna get into more of that, right, at a later date. You know what I'm saying? But back to the, let me touching on Dame Dash. You know, just being a businessman, he said a lot of things that got people upset. As far as you know, he doesn't want, he would never call another man boss. And that's like calling another man daddy. And you know, it raised a lot of eyebrows, it offended a lot of people, inspired a lot of people. You know, not getting into that per se, but just based on that question, a lot of people say pride don't feed the family, brother. You know, a lot of people say that pride ain't gonna put food on that table. So my question, Blue Pill, being an entrepreneur, somebody who works for themselves, based on that question and what some of the comments were, would you rather just get by? Because, you know, there's hard times being a businessman. There's what some people call a climb to the top. Some people ain't built for it. Some people don't like the weight. Some people don't believe in themselves. Whatever. There's plenty of reasons for that to happen. But would you rather get by just being a businessman, or would you rather make a comfortable amount working for somebody else? Because there's a lot of security in some of these jobs. Brothers making 50, 60, 70, 80,000. You know, you start from scratch, be a businessman, you know, it's 50-50. You don't know what might happen. So would you rather just get by and be happy to say I don't work for nobody? Or would you rather just be comfortable knowing you putting food on that family's table working for somebody else?
Right. Dame Dash had a lot of grown men feeling like Boo-Boo Kitty. And justifiably so. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about Dame's unique approach, he says things that are going to get underneath other people's skin because his conversation is very combative. You know, he's fighting something off in order to, you know, he's playing chess with people at all times. So he was playing chess with Envy. He was trying to put Envy in a particular position to thwart him from asking questions that was going to make him feel uncomfortable. And he also was speaking about his ideology. And his ideology is, again, like I said, rooted in the mind state of a Harlem hustler. So, you know, from where he's talking from in terms of his entrepreneurial spirit, yeah, you know, that was his approach. I think that he did a lot as people from my generation were able to absorb little pointers that we observed when they were coming up as Rockefeller as a team. You know what I'm saying? They always would refer to themselves as partners. They were in a partnership. You know what I'm saying? Even when they got with Def Jam, it was a partnership. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't subordinate to another corporation. When my company partnered with Sony, we were a partnership. You know what I'm saying? I never necessarily was part of a corporate structure where I could say I had a quote-unquote boss. Now, there's a necessity for a relationship to be formed even with your partners. You know what I'm saying? Even as somebody that's an entrepreneur, you know, I kind of like look at my clients as, you know, they're partners. They're somewhat of, you know, like shareholders in my company. My company's not going to move forward. I'm not going to do much without those people, you know, doing a level of business. You know what I'm saying? And I call it a partnership because these people are not only making purchases, but you also rely on them to promote for you. You rely on them, you know what I'm saying, to market, you know, your products by spreading links. You know what I'm saying? In this case, wearing the jewelry, taking the gold, letting people know, drinking the water, drinking the sea moss, doing this, doing that. I've been self-employed since I was 14. So for me, it kind of like was a no-brainer. You know, I think I've had a job in between those two periods about 2 or 3 times, and it never necessarily worked for me because of, that ideology. I didn't necessarily like being told what to do. I liked doing business on my own terms, and I was very creative. So I can't sit in a position and facilitate, X, Y, and Z sort of position while my mind is just going there all day. So for me and myself, for somebody that thinks like me, I think that there was pretty much no other option but to become an entrepreneur, who has not only one thing going on but several things at once. You know what I'm saying? My sort of approach to life wouldn't fit in that sort of model, but I do applaud and salute the people that do understand, that, security in their case is something that they should ascertain to provide for their family. Because I've been in very uncomfortable situations, and that has caused strains in my relationships and everything else. Because as an entrepreneur, all things aren't guaranteed. You're learning on the quote unquote job, because you're working for yourself. I'm my boss, but I'm also my employee. You feel what I'm saying? I'm the teacher and I'm also the student. So it's a relationship. You're having a relationship with the person that you want to become and the person who you actually are. You know what I'm saying? You're having, a mental ideology with the person that might have mentored you or that you're looking up to. And then you have to reconcile that with the person that you actually are in business. And you know what I'm saying? How do those two people match up? You know what I'm saying? How does it weigh? So, even though we don't have bosses, we also have mentors. We also have somebody that we look up to. We also have, as he would say, a quote unquote OG. Now that's just a different relationship. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not opposed to somebody going to work and being a subordinate for what it is that they are getting in return, because that's the structure. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, like I continuously say, a child is only going to shit what you feed them. Now, whether a person wants to break out of that mindset and do something different, like me, once I learned about the Matrix, once I learned about Moorish, science and nationality and de facto government, it would be very hard and difficult for me to go into a corporate structure, you know what I'm saying, under that arrangement, you know what I'm saying, and be contracted with an entity such as that. So because of my information and my education, it don't work for me. But I know if somebody's not been exposed to this information, what else have they been trained up to do? You know what I'm saying? Whether it's, like even people that is hustling, most of them is in a subordinate, position. Very rarely, do people get to rise to the ranks where they're totally the boss of their own operation. You feel me? So, if our people haven't been taught to play some basketball, rap, hustle, then they're being taught to get a job, you know what I'm saying? And they're being taught what to do to get, a job that pays a particular level where they're comfortable and they're able to support a family. They're able to grow their family. They're able to get that big car. They're able to get that nice car. You know what I'm saying? And it's, again, not a question of whether it's right or wrong. We just have to be honest. That's what we've been taught. That's what we've been exposed to. You feel me? Now, there are a small contingency of us that are trying to rewrite that narrative, to break out of that mindset, to do something different. We're talking about building community. We're talking about doing this. We're talking about doing that. But at the end of the day, for those of us, that are talking, until we put those things into motion, into action, and the people are able to physically see that model, then it's going to be talk. And, I've been personally want to be, to speak up and be like, look, for a person coming into consciousness, for a person going through that transitional period, do not jump out of your 9 to 5 and jump into consciousness if you don't have a contingency plan. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have that nest egg, if you don't have, if you don't have no bona fide hustle in you, you understand? This might not be the thing for you right away, everything that glitters is not gold. You know what I'm saying? So things might look a certain way, they might sound a certain way. You feel me? In your heart of hearts, they might even feel a certain way, but this thing might not necessarily be the thing for you. You know what I mean? Until it starts showing that it is more able to be about what people say, you know what I'm saying, rather than just talk.
No, that's real talk, you know, and that's even connected with just everything we was talking about earlier about with belief. I remember there was a time when I was younger, when I was in business for myself, and things got real shaky, and you know, you starting to think them thoughts. You start to think them thoughts about, like, damn, man, maybe I should just, you know, get a job and, you know, do what I do. But I just never felt comfortable like that. So I just told myself one day, fuck it, man, I'm gonna just die. You know, I'm gonna go out doing what I want to do. I looked at, you know what's funny? And some of the hustlers inspired me. There was this dude I know, an older hustler in my block. And he used to, you know, admire that I was staying straight. And he was telling me, he was proud of, you know, the direction I was going in comparison to other children on the block. So I was like, well, you got a lot of knowledge. Why don't you change and do what you want to do? He was like, man, this is what I came down here to do. I'm going to die doing this shit. He said, I'm going to die selling drugs, Rich. I'm not saying I agree with the brother, but I felt his sincerity in his statement. I'm dying doing this. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm dying doing this. Like, that's it. Like, so I was like, oh shit. So it's easy to get inspired by that and apply it to your own situation. So I told myself, I'm gonna die doing what I believe in, man. Fuck it. I'm gonna go out how I want to go out. So, you know, and just shortly after that, things started to pick up. You know, I guess that's reality's way of testing yourself. Like, nigga, you really want to leave this frequency or not? We gonna test your ass. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's cool. Real quick, Blue, I want to move on to the next thing. I know you've been in the hip hop industry. You work for labels. I love talking to you about pop culture. Your boy Common.
I work with labels.
Yes. Your boy Common, formerly known as Common Sense, made a statement about, he was on, I think, Jon Stewart, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Where he was like, we got to get over slavery, we got to forget about the past, and we got to extend our arm. We're not extending our arm enough. I don't want to misquote the brother, but he was saying we got to, love. We got to show them how much we love them or whatever, to paraphrase. I guess, I don't know if I'm wrong, but some would say it's similar to MLK. Would you say that's similar to what MLK was saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so, some people look at us black people as crybabies for speaking about slavery or continuously, speaking about what's going on, the injustices going on. And it seems like we're condemned more than the people committing the acts of racism. The people complaining about it is condemned more than the people committing it in this society or this collective culture. Are they right? Blue Pill, are we crybabies? They're saying every race has been enslaved at one time. They got up off their bootstraps and they kept it moving. The Japanese, with the atom bomb, they got up and just kept going. What is it about black people that you guys just want to live in the past, So what do you have to say about that?
I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about different streams of consciousness. And, I've traveled, I don't have that much travel outside of the country per se to have a global perspective on consciousness, globally. But I do have enough of perspective on what it is we've been exposed to here in this country to say, for a person that's dealing with quote unquote consciousness, you should at least have a bi-coastal aspect of consciousness and absorb everything in between. You know what I'm saying? So when I went to California, I experienced a different level of consciousness. There are several and many diverse quote unquote conscious communities. And I was using Common as an example to point out to my people, I was like, he's Selma 50 consciousness. And he's like, what you mean by that? I said, as I've been going to do coverage on some of these marches and stuff like that, I said, there's a contingency of our youth that are in that lane. You know what I'm saying? They're in the same vein of the Martin Luther Kings. They're in the same vein as the marchers. You know what I'm saying? You've seen them in Ferguson. You've seen them here in New York. You know what I'm saying? You've seen them around the country doing die-ins. You know what I mean? And that is their level towards protests. You know what I'm saying? They're going to march. They're going to carry slogans. They're going to carry signs. You know? And I said that contingency is merging with, you know, a whole nother contingency that might be like semi-bougie, you know, the people that have these positions and these jobs that they're comfortable in. The people that might be, you know, partying in the Hamptons, the people that might hang out in Martha's Vineyard, you know what I'm saying? The people that might hang out with Lee Daniels in Hollywood, you feel me? But they also might get invites to the White House when Obama has a shindig, you know what I'm saying? They also might be in charge of politics on a local level. You know, they might be church organizers, you feel me? You know, they might have a medium income of 80 to 100,000, you know? They might have the tricklings and the trinklings and things of that nature that other people might desire for, and they might have acquired it very easily. They might be, you know, Howard graduates. They might be sororities. They might be fraternities. You understand? They deal with consciousness on a different kind of level. So, you know, that's kind of like what Common represents. You know, they might be okay with Empire without dealing with, you know what I'm saying, the whole ratchet aspect of it. They might be okay with the depiction of homosexuality on TV. You know what I'm saying? They might dance to house music and have nothing, you know, see nothing wrong with dancing next to two dudes dancing together. You know what I'm saying? They have all of these different approaches, and they see the world differently, and they're a lot more open armed because they got Jewish friends. You know what I'm saying? They have, you know, European co-workers. You know what I'm saying? They have gay friends. They have Asian friends. You know, some people would beg to differ and say, oh, they have a global perspective on things. They're more prepared for the world, and they might have something more in common with the youth than, say, we do, who might look at our approach towards quote-unquote consciousness as very rigid, you know what I'm saying, and very old and part of an old paradigm. You understand? So I was having this conversation with him, and I'm like, yo, you know, Common is one of them people that I see in this point in his career that he's at a place in a plateau where he can't turn around. You know, I was raised off of his music. He was very militant in his younger years. His consciousness was very inspiring, the things that he had to say and how he was able to say them. You know, he was Southside Chicago consciousness. You know, now his shit is more like, you know, is Black Hollywood consciousness. And I understand it. Being out there and being around those people, there's certain stances that they're not going to be willing to take because it's going to put them in a box. And that box is not properly financed. You know what I'm saying? There's no plateau to that particular box. There's no range in that particular box. For the world that he's in, that he's looking to dominate, hanging out with John Legend and going to the Oscars and the Grammys and things of that nature, he's on a trajectory that's, you know, about to take him somewhere else. So do I think that that comment, I think that comment fits him perfectly. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that it's going to fly too well with quote unquote Black America. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what base he's necessarily speaking to by trying to have people shift their sentiments more so towards him. But there are a lot of people out there that I know of, you know, that are going to be able to share his sentiments and agree with what he says. They're the minority now, you know, but these people are policymakers. These people are tastemakers. You know what I'm saying? These people have their fingers on culture. Like if we was to go to Jimmy Kimmel and ask Questlove and the Roots Band how they felt about his comments, you know what I'm saying? What you think they're gonna say? Even if we was to ask Kanye how he felt about his comments, what you think he's gonna say? If we was to ask Jay-Z how he felt, or Beyonce, you know what I'm saying, or any of these people who people might be looking at this and be like, oh, we don't, you know, that's not the conscious community, but they shape consciousness globally. You know what I'm saying? They can shift the conversation with a tweet, you know? So whether that's right or wrong, I'm just saying that this is what we're up against in this whole social paradigm, what my brother Buddha Klink likes to call, you know, the Android meme, where just sending out a tweet, just pressing a button, you know what I'm saying, can have you around the world in a second. There's never been a time where we've dealt with something like this. And that tweet can change how people feel. That tweet can change people's conversation, how they talk. You know, Dame Dash conversation changed how people talk. I was in Atlanta and I went to a record store and I was with a friend and she asked the brother in the record store where his quote unquote boss was at. You know what I'm saying? Such and such around. Oh nah, he ain't come in today. She's like, oh, you know, damn, must be good to be a boss. Oh nah, that's not my boss. He just started getting defensive. That's not my boss's stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just work here. You know, he just started making all of these excuses, and I experienced that more than once. That people can't even openly refer to the people that they're quote unquote subordinate to, who they was calling a boss yesterday. They can no longer call him a boss today. They got to find a different conversation, a different name. You know, he shifts the whole dynamic. He's making people feel uncomfortable in their own skin. You feel me? So, like I said, for Common, based on where he's at, you know what I'm saying, and where he's going with it, I understand why he would make that comment. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that that he's speaking for the people, for the masses anymore. I think that you know, and we have to approach this even when we're talking about earlier, when we're talking about polite, when we're talking about other people. You know what I'm saying? Are we looking at a decision and a position and a demonstration based on a person's individualistic perspectives and standpoints and approaches and demonstrations? Are we looking at how that person is responding or speaking for the collective? That person might be speaking solely for themselves. That person might be, you know, expressing how they feel. That person might be in their space for them and their family. You know what I'm saying? And we're taking it like, oh, you know, that's not going to fly with the whole. That's not going to fly with the all. You got to ask yourself, is that person doing it for the all? Is that person speaking for the all? Is that person representing the all? You feel me? So I'm under no illusions. I don't get caught up in that. And that leads back to what Dame Dash was saying. You know what I'm saying? I don't get caught up in people's thing. I don't count nobody's pockets. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily fall too far into judgment about what a person says or does, because I know that those people are in different places in their lives, and that shit is bound to make you do things that you know, the general public is not going to understand on the surface. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, let us do be open-minded that there are different contingencies of consciousness on this planet, and especially in this country, and they play by different rules. You know, and they're some of them are very much all inclusive. You know, I think that, you know, especially with that brother, let me just say this, because I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying? I've been a fan of his music for so long, especially, you know, his ability to put thought into poetry in such a way. I think that he could have spoke more eloquently about the culpability on both people's part to meet eye to eye, if that's the approach that he was taking. Like, stop shifting the blame totally to us, where it's like, oh, we're just so angry, you feel me, that we're the ones that have to have this open heart, you know what I'm saying, and start being apologetic for things that we don't necessarily have to be apologetic for. And let me also directly answer your question about us as a people, you know what I'm saying? And I've been traveling the country a lot, man, and I've just been taking the temperature of our people everywhere that I go. And, you know, a lot of our people is just beat down, B. You know what I'm saying? A lot of our people are just carrying this level of this weight where it's just very hard to tell somebody that you're going to be able to shift that weight by walking up to white folks and saying, I'm sorry, and putting your hand out and telling them that you love them or what have you. You know? So the same person whose hand was smacking you yesterday is supposed to be consoling your face today. That's the ideology in that. The same person whose hand was stringing up a rope is the same hand that you're supposed to be eating out of tomorrow. You know? I think that that's where we went wrong with integration to begin with. So the shit that we're approaching and the bitterness that we are seeing as a people and our inability to pull ourselves up from our bootstrap is mainly because we fell into this whole aspect that we were going to reach our hand out to the very hand that yesterday was holding a nightstick and going upside our head. And because we did it without a level of demands, because we did it without them being culpable for their past aggressions and things of that nature, because we forgot that that hand was also capable of doing the things and holding the whips and all of this shit that their hands was capable of yesterday, okay? Because now our hands were able to pick things out in their stores, and our hands were able to bring those things back home, and our hands were able to give those things to our children who had their hands out. You feel me? I think that's because that's one of the main reasons why our people find themselves in this position, and they're confused. You know what I mean? They're confused. They don't have the perspective intact in order to see this shit for what it is. So it's like their brains is like turned backwards, and they're trying to see straight ahead to like make sense of this shit, and they can't. And then there's so many other things that are bombarding them for their attention at the same time, and they fall into that without addressing what's in front of them. They can't see it. That's my perspective based on what I've been able to assess on my travels.
You know, you mentioning the brother in the record store when his sister asked, you know, it must be good to have a boss, and he was like, you know, no, that's not my boss. It made me think about a question I had. A lot of people say, you know, Black America always says, you know, we need to unite. You hear that all the time. We need to unite. The leaders need to unite. Easier said than done. Sometimes when you have different ideologies, it's hard to get brothers to unite. This whole I'm a boss mentality. Y'all know you heard of the saying, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, right? Right. So do you think that too many people with the I'm a boss mentality, that turns into the too many chiefs and not enough Indians, and we won't get nothing accomplished because everybody's a damn boss all of a sudden, and there has to be a boss, and there has to be people under the boss. There has to be some type of system, pyramid system, where there's a few people at the top and more at the bottom. So is this I'm a boss mentality going to get us in trouble, and is it the same as too many chiefs, not enough Indians?
Again, you know, it has to be perspective. You know, you're a boss in what type of system? Is it a top-down capitalist system? You know what I'm saying? So what sort of capitalistic system are you following? Is it all across the board capitalist system where, as a quote-unquote boss, like, I'm going to use the model, you know, the old European model. Think about a skyscraper. The boss was in the penthouse and everybody else was subordinates. They was underneath them. You know what I'm saying? And then there is this new laid out model where they have these CEOs of these companies that have offices in the same department as everybody else in the company. So it's flat out, you know what I'm saying? They're side by side, they're employees. The ideology or the feeling or the mentalism of subordination is somewhat erased when you can access your quote unquote boss. You know what I'm saying? When they're right next to you, they're down the hall, you could look in their office and you see them. So, you know, or they have a lot of other new business models that are out there that, like, when I say I'm a boss, like I said, I'm my own employee. And anybody that was to, you know, work with me, I would consider that a partner, not an employee, because I don't even like that stigma. You know what I'm saying? I'm teaching myself. I'm my best employee. You know what I'm saying? Oftentimes, I got to do everything in my company. And that's just what it is. I trust myself. You know what I'm saying? Now, other people that I've been able to bring in, I can say, yo, we've partnered. You know what I mean? So it's a change in ideology. I don't like the stigma that comes along with that, of you being somebody's boss and they being your quote unquote employee. So I'm able to work with different people in the community because of my ideology of partnership. You know what I'm saying? I can sit on KTL radio and feel like I'm bossing, but my guest is not my employee. My guest is coming on and we're partnering to pilot this program together. You know what I'm saying? I'm treating that person equally as a boss in their respective field. You know what I'm saying? That person is an expert in what it is that they do. I'm not an expert in that field. I'm not going to let my boss ideology bleed over and try to boss hog that person's conversation. I've seen that plenty times on you know, I've heard it on the radio. I've seen it on YouTube. I've experienced it in real life. I've seen it in lectures and things of that nature. So a person's ideology is taking them too far, you know what I'm saying, out of the realm of where they need to be to see themselves as equal with the person that they're dealing with. So if I see myself with my brother and my sister, I won't never have a problem working with my brother or my sister. You know what I mean? And anybody that knows me can attest. Anybody that's seen me out in the world is, you know, seen this program and they've stopped me in the street or what have you. I tell them I'm just like you. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here just like you. You know what I'm saying? Making it just like you. You know, I ride the MARTA, I ride the train, I ride the buses just like you. I want to be around people just like you. Okay? So I see my people as my equal. Now, does that mean that, you know, I may have read, quote unquote, more books than them? You know what I'm saying? Or I'm able to do sequential mathematics quicker than them. I'm able to, you know, tell you some things about the number 44 that you never heard. Yeah, I could do all that stuff. But that doesn't make me better per se than that next person. Again, because we're going back to metaphysics. I'm rooted in metaphysics to understand that there's no separation. I'm rooted in metaphysics to understand that if I'm having a conversation with you, you're a reflection of me. There's something that you stopped to tell me that's going to teach me something about myself. I'm looking in the mirror, so I'm listening. I'm intent. You know, I know that if there's something that's throwing you off, that there's something that I have to investigate about myself. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and without metaphysics, I wouldn't necessarily be able to take that approach. So I've mixed in a lot of different things to root me in a reality where I could be of service to mankind, to humankind for that matter, to be a better person, because I base my life off of my experiences. And I want to have the best experiences, and I want to be able to share experiences to help people grow as opposed to stunt their growth.
You know, I was talking to you on the phone the other day. We was talking about the, you know, all over the papers, they had a fight that them young black teenagers had in McDonald's. I don't know how much across the other country, the rest of the country it was in. So it was where you was at. They were showing it where you was at. Wow. Okay, so check it out. So they have a group of young girls, teenage girls, get into a fist fight, and they jumped this girl at McDonald's. They show it all over the country. 2-3 days, a week later, a bunch of white boys get into huge fights at the St. Patrick's Day parade. And I think probably one media outlet, Pix 11, showed it in New York, but it wasn't on the front page of the paper like the girls. They had the girls on the front page of the paper 2 days in a row. The first day it said savages. The second day it said McBrutes. So this happens with, and I mean, these dudes was hitting each other in the head with bottles. One dude was knocked out cold. I mean, these were some grown men swinging, throwing blows, knocking each other out. Nothing. You didn't hear a murmur. So now, is a huge double standard at play here. And I mean huge double standard at play here. So, with that being said, Blue Pill, is it hard not to understand why people look at, I mean, like, almost like a person like me or you, or just people in general, when you black, or just in general, when you look at anybody that looks at the news, is that are they automatically gonna look down on black people? Because we have the same thing happening, or maybe it's not exactly the same. Maybe who's to say one is worse than the other? I don't know. That's a personal call. But is it automatic just by watching the news and not seeing it from a holistic view? Is it you automatically gonna hate some niggas? Let's just say niggas. You gonna hate you some niggas, boy. You watching this news, you see that savages, McBrutes. You're not seeing this white on white crime. And that's what we was talking the whole year early about There's not even a word white or white crime. When you say white or white crime, an average person would be like, what's that? I never heard that term. That's interesting. Did you just make that up? So the media is purposely ignoring what they're doing and purposely exploiting our lowest nature when we're at our lowest to portray this image of us. So with that being said, Blue Pill, man, do you even get mad at people for maybe looking at our race the way they do? Not just white people, I'm talking about everybody. Niggas don't like niggas. Some people say, man, I like being a black person but hate being a nigga. Where did they get that from? All the shit they see black people do, and they're like, damn, man, niggas is fucked up. But every race is fucked up. Every race do things, but for some reason ours is on the media more than any. So what do you think about that, Blue?
I think that it's part of the ongoing narrative, and that's why it's fed to us in that particular fashion. As soon as there was media in this country, as soon as there was motion picture or moving picture, the images shown of our people were of savages, you know what I'm saying? They were perpetuating the lies that we were cannibals in the jungles of Africa, and this is how they found our people. For those of us that study our history, we know why this was perpetuated. We know why these lies were thrust upon our people to pretty much bolster the claim that Christianity and slavery saved our people from themselves. And we know all of the intricate ways in which those lies have been exploited in this society. We know why those lies have to be held intact. We also know by studying history that there was a thrust against those lies, you know, by us getting into our own form of propaganda by ways of the 50s and the 60s and Elijah Muhammad coming along and reversing the mirror, you know what I'm saying, and calling, you know, the savage beast the devil, okay, and pointing out some of the things on par that the quote-unquote white man is also guilty of, all right? We don't have the media machine to continuously pump that propaganda out, all right, to the world, where the world is able to see, all right, in real time, continuously, where the world is able to see the nature of the threat, all right? So sporadically, right, only when we are dealing with ourselves as victims do we have the opportunity to speak about the transgression of the European. Only when we need to defend ourselves as victims are we able to speak openly about these wars that the European has engaged in, all right? Just in last century alone, you know what I'm saying, the millions of bodies that was racked up in World War I and World War II, you know what I'm saying? Only as victims are we able to point out the atrocities of Leopold, you know what I'm saying, the millions and millions of bodies that was caught in Africa. Only as victims are we able to speak about the lynching, you know what I'm saying, and the Klan. Only as victims, never triumphantly. So in the minds of a people, like, who always wants to identify with victimhood? What strength comes out of that? You know what I'm saying? If you're always identifying with victimhood, and the only time that we get to speak about European transgressions is from the viewpoint of a victim, what they did to us, you know what I'm saying? Or you call us this, but look what they did. That shit sounds kind of chatty patty as well, you know? So I think that the opus has been shifted, where the attention and the focus is not on them, it's continuously on us. We're always in defense mode, all right? So when they have a people that have, you know, like, continuously absorbed the brunt and the weight of victimhood, those people are always dealing with either trying to defend why they're victims or defend themselves of not being victims, but never are we in the offense to explain, like, look, this is savagery over here. So the St. Pat story, right, it won't connect. There's no magnetism to it. You know what I'm saying? It won't catch. It's not going to go viral. There's going to be not too many memes. Only what they consider the quote-unquote You know, them angry people, Black Twitter's gonna tear it up. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna make a meme of it, but it's not gonna trend on CNN. MSNBC is not gonna pick it up. Daily News ain't gonna put it on the front page, right? Why would they? We're talking about the same people. You know what I'm saying? These are probably the same people that get drunk, go to the bar and fight. They're going to put their own people on the front page. The fact that we don't have the media to put the light on that shit and show the disparities, that's the problem. Okay? The fact that we don't have the propaganda machines to put the proper spin on it and put it into play, that's the problem. Okay? They had all these percentages. They said that there's white on white crime is more of a problem than quote unquote black on black crime. All right? There's 44 million melanated people in this country. There's over 200 million Europeans. So the percentages are going to be starkly higher, but we don't hear about it because where are we getting our media from? The people are only going to shit what you feed them. All right. So we're looking to be, again, fed from the same hand that previously was stringing you up. You're looking to be educated from the same hand that previously was pulling the trigger or swinging the baton or holding the fire hose. This shit is crazy. So we're always going to be depicted a particular way. This lie has to be perpetuated from time immemorial until you take back what's yours. You're always going to be depicted as the beast, the savage, and the animal. That has to always be at the forefront of the conversation in order for them to justify not only the way that you're being treated, but the way that you've been treated. Always to keep off the table the conversation about who you are and where you came from. All right? So those lies are connected to more heinous, insidious lies that have been around for as long as we've been here under captivity, for long as there's been media, for long as there's been Hollywood. What you think and how you think it started? It started from vaudeville. It started from Nickelodeon. It started from Birth of a Nation. You know what I'm saying? Depicting you in those very quote unquote states of savagery. So, you know, that's part of the propaganda. That's part of the agenda. That's what's, you know, funding the fear campaign so the prisons could be built. You know what I'm saying? So more of the bullets can be ordered. All right. And our women, our daughters, our sisters are now the target. Okay. Was shorties acting out of pocket? They were. But I grew up at a time again. You know, niggas was getting hit in the head with hammers. Religiously. For no reason. Okay. Cut in the face with razors. Just because. This wasn't even robberies, you know, let alone people was getting robbed, turned upside down, and they was taking you out of your Pumas and your Jordans. That's what we grew up around. All right. Now, this is not to me to say that I'm justifying it. I'm just saying that I've seen some horrible shit, been part of some horrible shit in my youth. But now, you know, you got the cameras and all of this. And you know, I think the better conversation rather than the fight would be the cowardice of the people that were watching. You know what I'm saying? And this whole generation of voyeurism and people pulling out phones. You know, the culture, the ideology of somebody screaming world star when you're getting your ass whooped. All right.
Blue, I got one last question for you, Blue. I was reading an article, the Azealia Banks article in Playboy. She posts for Playboy. And I was reading some of her answers, and it was, you know, she was dropping some signs, you know. She was dropping, you know, she stayed dropping stuff. She stayed saying it's inspirational. She's, you know, some might call pro-black, some might call angry black woman. There's all types of terms I heard going on out there. My thing to you, Blue, is that people have this thing where, you know, when you start speaking up, you know, for black people, quote unquote black people, or, you know, you appear to be for the upliftment, or you're speaking against white supremacy, they expect you to look and behave in a certain manner. And then when you don't fit what they thought you were supposed to look and act like, the person gets upset. they say, "Oh man, I thought this motherfucker was conscious." That's the word, the quote unquote conscious. So, you know, if they see Blue Pill with a bottle of Hennessy, if you just pulled out a bottle of Hennessy right now, they say, "Oh man, I thought that brother was conscious, man. What's wrong with the brother?" So all your information goes out the window, and they're just concentrating on that bottle of Hennessy. Yeah. My question to you, Blue, is it a right to get information from a person? Now, this sister, you know, I think she's bisexual.
Yes.
She posts for Playboy.
She likes white men.
She dates white men. But she says some very interesting things as it pertains to the black plight here in this country. Should you take, and it's not just her, I don't want to single her out, it's a lot of people. If a brother has a white girl, they don't want to hear shit from that brother. Nigga, you got a white girl. How much can you speak for the black community if you got a white woman? Or, you know, I remember one time when I was young, I had a Ericsson cell phone. These were when cell phones first came out. Brother told me, "Man, I thought you was conscious. What you doing walking around with a cell phone for?" Because it wasn't the norm yet. Now it's the norm, so it's okay for everybody to have it. But when it wasn't the norm and I had it, brother, what you doing spending your money on that? You don't need that. So I always stuck on. I'm like, damn, I didn't like this. Makes me not conscious having a cell phone. Now everybody has a cell phone, yeah. So I would have been a damn fool to throw it out and listen to him. So my question to you is, what makes up? Well, let me not say that. Should you take information from a person who appears to do contradictory things, like talk about the upliftment for our people, but they may date the person of another race? Some people get at Jay Electronica for what he says, but they look at him with his white, they say is his white girl, the Rothschild or whoever they say she is. So is there anything wrong, you personally, is there anything, or do you think it's wrong with doing that, taking info from a person who appears to contradict some of the things that they are speaking of?
I think you said it best. You know, we live in the divine paradox. If nothing else, when I was looking at that Dame Dash interview, I seen a person that's caught up in a paradoxical existence. You know, he made a lot of contradictions. Earlier when you asked me about polite, I think that even leads back to what we're talking about in regards to, divine paradoxes. You know what I'm saying? People looking at his level of success, and we're talking about success, and we're talking about, you know, the need and necessity to have finances and funds. But if you show people that you got finances and funds, and people want to pretty much tell you how to spend your money, you know what I'm saying? People want to tell you how to define your success, you know. So they're caught up in the person, not so much the quote unquote message. I think in this sister's particular case, she, you know, her message is more so not separate from her personage, meaning that she's not just speaking as a voice per se, but she's making you not only listen to her, but also look at her, because she's speaking about personal experiences. And she's also speaking generally about who we are and what we're dealing with as a people. But the first thing that people are going to do, and we notice as a society, is they're going to scrutinize who you are. They're going to scrutinize what you do. They're going to scrutinize what you said. They're going to scrutinize who you screw. They're going to scrutinize all of those things. You know what I'm saying? And then they're going to start taking you apart. Like Dame Dash, his message didn't hit as well with so many people because they just started taking apart the individual and dismissed the message altogether. Oh, who was he to give me business advice? He's broke. I'm not listening to a nigga that's missing a tooth. You know, this, that, and the other. You know, he got a little poodle with him. He employs quote unquote white women. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff. You feel me? All of this stuff is what people put at the forefront of why they didn't want to receive the message, even if what he was saying made some sense. Now, I'm not saying everything that he said made sense. It's not going to make sense for everybody is the thing. So he was speaking to a very small select group of people that will be able to not only receive what he was saying, but make use of it. You know, not everybody is going to be able to utilize what the brother dropped. You understand? So at the same time, you know, with the sister Azealia Banks, you know, I was listening to what she said, you know, and I would have to personally, to tell you the truth, to make an honest reply or honest assessment of her as an individual, I would have to interview her, because there's some things that I would have to get to of the core of her psychology before I can make a proper assumption of where she's coming from. You understand? I did sense a level of anger, and some people say, well, the anger is necessary, you know, but I would question at that same time, for a person that has a level of distrust and disdain for Europeans, you know, a person like that would jump at the first opportunity to express themselves sexually in that venue, you know what I'm saying? I would say that, you know, to me, that's just kind of like, it's a trade-off at the end of the day. Okay, so you're trading something in the form of sexuality to access a broader venue to get your word out. You're using it as a sounding board. What it is that you should be saying or should have been saying or would have been more impactful to say, you know, should have been attached to some form of agenda. Like the brother Tariq Nasheed from Hidden Colors, he's been making international trips and doing media, from what I understand, and they've been speaking about racism in these venues, and his answers are somewhat vague when they're asking about solutions and things of that nature. Okay, we hear about what you're saying about Europeans, we hear what you're saying about, you know, your own people in institutions of racism, or what are the solutions? And a lot of people that are accessing these venues, they have very vague answers when it comes to the solutions. So I remember a time when our athletes who were under the guidance of people like Elijah Muhammad, you know what I'm saying, when our actors, they were part of organizations, you know what I'm saying, when our people had access to media, right, to broader platforms, they used these platforms to get their agendas out. When they were speaking to the millions and the masses, our entertainers, you know what I'm saying, they spoke not only to instill a sense of pride to our people, but they also was dropping gems in order to, like, you know, give them a sword, give them a sharper sword, that they were knowingly saying, look, if my people is on the battlefield and they're losing, I'm going to give them a sword to work with. You know what I'm saying? I love the way that the sister pointed our people's ideology towards African spiritualism. All right. I think that was brilliant, but she didn't identify it with a system that people would be able to pick up on. They got to research, Google and shit. What did she say? She used a whole nother name for it. The 21, we sitting here and we forgot. You know what I'm saying? I could dig it. I knew what she was talking about. I thought that was kind of slick, but it's going to go over the heads of the masses. From where I just came from, the people that's down there that's going to pick that magazine up and read it because she's butt ass on the cover, you know what I'm saying? If they're going to walk away with some gems, they're not going to Google that. They're not going to even gravitate to that level of the bill. Maybe, quote unquote, I don't want to make a judgment. I'm just saying, I'm assessing from where I'm sitting from to say, chances are, you know, they're going to let that one slide, you know what I'm saying, and not dig deeper. So we got to be a little bit more direct. I think that we just need to get our propaganda and our agendas a little bit tighter, you know, if we want to offer our people something that they're going to be able to use as a form of, you know, advanced weaponry. And information can be advanced weaponry. Shit, ain't no more advanced weapon on the planet than the internet. Do we know how to use that shit as a weapon? You know, or has it been weaponized against us? You know? So I would just say that, man, that I would like to interview the sister myself to get to some deep rooted things that I was able to identify in her in her interview. Same way that Red, you know, interviewed the brother Charles Hamilton, got to some deep rooted issues with him, signed to a new label. Now, you know, he was on Empire last night. His career done took off again. We got to these deep rooted issues. All right. So sometimes when we having these conversations and they're connecting with people, you just hear a voice, you just see us. You know what I'm saying? You don't see the trillions of people and spirits that are behind us. You don't hear the voices that are coming through us. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand that we're vehicles and beacons for a higher, more, meaningful conversation that's taking place. You understand? We're touching people in places that we can't physically do with the physical body by way of this internet. You know what I'm saying? I'm very thankful for this medium and this venue, as well as the spirit realm is thankful for fulcrums and vehicles such as us that they can speak through. So, yeah, I would love to highlight that system.